Hey guys, welcome back, and this week we're returning to the basics. No more new content trying, we're not going to look at guns, we're not going to look at the new stuff in the game, we're not going to look at raids or dungeons. This week we're returning to the builds, and this build that I'm about to show you today has become one of my favorites very quickly. I had this set up before Gryfalcon's Hauberk even had its rework, just so this way I could be ready for it, and I was not disappointed. So, like, comment, and subscribe if you want to keep seeing more builds this season. Let's have a quick word from our sponsor and then get right into the class setup. We're going to be running a Void Hunter. Obviously, if we want to make use of this particular exotic, we need to use Void Hunter. The first aspect we're going to look at is Vanishing Step. Dodging makes you invisible. This is very simple yet very key to this particular build. And then we're going to play into Stylish Executioner. Defeating a weakened, suppressed, or volatile target grants you invisibility and true sight. After performing a Stylish Executioner, your next melee attack, while invisible, weakens targets. This plays another very huge part into our exotic setups that we're going to go over after this, that makes you pretty much never run out of invisibility, and it is so good to have. The first fragment we're going to look at, though, is Echo of Leeching. Melee final blows start health regeneration for you and nearby allies, which gives us a plus 10 resilience. I took this solely for the plus 10 resilience. My hunter armor is very lacking in most of the departments that it shouldn't be in, which I'm trying very hard to correct from just very bad past mistakes that I have made. So if you don't need the 10 resilience, obviously pick something else that would fit your build better. Echo of Starvation. Picking up an orb grants Devour, minus 10 recovery. We will make tons of orbs with our armor setup, so we will almost always have Devour, which is going to play into another exotic we're going to tie into this build, which is going to make this build shine even more. Echo of Obscurity. Finisher final blows make you invisible with a plus 10 to recovery. This is going to be an extra way to make us go invisible, to make use of all the things that's going to happen when we come out of invisibility and go into invisibility. And it's really nice because when getting a finisher while invisible is going to extend our invisibility, which is going to play a huge part when talking about our exotic chestplate. Echo of Reprisal. Final blows when surrounded by combatants grant you super energy. I'm not running Font of Wisdom in this build, so being able to get a little bit of extra super energy wherever we can is going to help us just throw tethers wherever we want to help our teammates or ourselves in solo content. So now, with our class setup gone over, let's go over the exotics that we're going to use to make this build really what it is and define what it can do. The first exotic we're going to look at is Collective Obligation. This is the Void Pulse Rifle gotten from Valve the Disciple, and I'm going to say right now, you don't have to use this weapon for this build to work. Any Void weapon you want to use will work for this build. I chose Collective Obligation because of the trait Umbral Sustenance. This weapon's magazine is automatically reloaded when you gain Devour, Avoid Overshield, or become invisible. Now this is what makes it so we pretty much never have to manually reload our gun. Between the orbs that we're going to pick up to grant us Devour and the 3 ways that we can become invisible, we're pretty much never going to have to reload unless you're fighting targets that are just meaty, like champions and just overall just bosses in general. We're also going to look at its intrinsic trait, Void Leech. This weapon leeches void debuffs when damaging targets that are suppressed, weakened, or volatile. Once charged, hold reload to swap firing modes. In this mode, damage from this weapon applies the same void debuffs that were leeched. So, if a target has volatile on it, and we shoot them once or twice with Collective Obligation, it is going to grant itself volatile rounds when you switch to that other firing mode. Another cool thing is that I tested this not even 20 minutes ago, but when you hit a target with the Weaken Clear Grenade Launcher mod, they applied a Void Weaken. So, Void Leech can apply that to itself, and you can grant yourself weakening bullets just from shooting something with your grenade launcher. So my setup for this has actually been a primary grenade launcher, like I've been using my Malicious Birthright because I haven't had the chance to swap over my Blinding Nade's Pardon of Dust, weakening a champion, draining the Void Weaken off of them, and storing it in my gun for when I need it later on for a boss fight or another champion. It's really, really, really nice to have, and honestly, it's a really cool perk once you combine it with just everything that's Void related. Now, let's talk about the star of the show, Gryfalcon's Hauberk, which comes with the exotic perk See Me, Feel Me. Your Void weapons gain volatile rounds after you emerge from being invisible. When you are invisible and defeat combatant while using a finisher, all of your weapons gain a bonus to damage. You and your nearby allies gain a reserve overshield and improved class ability regeneration. These reserve overshields can be deployed by using a class ability. invisibility. Now this is where this build gets extra spicy. We dodge to go invisible, granting ourselves the volatile rounds from Gryfalcon's Hauberk, and reloading collective obligation from umbral sustenance if you need to reload it. We then apply the volatile rounds to our gun from emerging from invisibility. Shooting targets will get them volatile, allowing Void Leech to leech the volatility. When we defeat said volatile target, our Stylist Executioner is going to go off, and it's going to reset the entire chain. It's going to make us invisible, we're going to come out of invisibility, our gun's going to reload, and we're going to be able to apply more volatile rounds to targets. Thusly, it's an infinite loop of just reloading your gun constantly and having an infinite amount of volatile rounds. The only thing that's going to stop you here is the 2-second internal cooldown for Stylist Execution. So, what you can do is while you have that cooldown and you're invisible, just wait 2 seconds and then fire off some more rounds, get the void volatility off, and then repeat the process until everything around you is destroyed. And while you're doing this, those void volatilities are going to make you orbs, therefore in which you can get your super back as well as becoming devoured so you never run out of health, and also again reloading collective obligation from umbral sustenance. It's just a really fun game loop, and honestly it is so good. This has become such a good gameplay. It allows hunters to play a lot more aggressive with their invisibility, and of course if you're invisible and get that finisher, you get a nice boost to help your friendlies and yourself, because now you can dodge, get that overshield, and it's just going to keep going. It's never going to end. It's just an amazing cycle to play, and this is probably one of the best exotic reworks we've had, because now Gryfalcons won't run rampant inside of PvP because you need a finisher to finish and get that bonus damage. But now in PvE, we're always going to have that void volatility. It's going to be amazing. Now let's go over our armor mods that we can use to elevate this build just one step higher. On our helmet, we ran Dynamo, which dodging near targets grants you some super energy, Harmonic Siphon, so our void weapon and the void volatility will make those orbs for our devour, as well as Well of Utility. Picking up a void elemental well grants you additional class energy. Multiple copies of this mod increases effect. My hunter has really bad mobility, so I need all the help I can get to get my dodge back, hence why utility comes in handy here. Obviously if you have a better dodge cooldown, you can swap it out for something completely different, but for me and my very slow mobility hunter, I need the extra oomph to my class ability. On our arms, because I was running the Heist Battlegrounds, I needed champ mods, Unstoppable Grenade Launcher, and Anti-Barrier Pulse Rifle. I also ran Reaping Wellmaker. After activating your class ability, your next weapon final blow on a combatant spawns a Void Elemental Well. The whole point of this build is to dodge and get a kill, so we may as well make Void Elemental Wells by just following our normal build gameplay loop. For our chest, we ran 2 Energy Diffusion Substrates, which gives you damage resistance to basically everything. And we ran Well of Tenacity. Picking up a Void Elemental Well reduces the damage you take from combatants for a short period of time. I already run 100 Resilience on my Hunter, but having the extra Resilience, Resistance, whatever you want to call it, is just huge. It lets you survive a lot more than you normally would on top of the 100 Resilience that I'm currently running. For our legs, I ran Absolution. Orbs give you energy to all your abilities. We're going to make a ton of orbs, so getting additional ability energy is going to be super helpful. I also ran Bountiful Wells. Elemental Well mods that cause you to spawn Elemental Wells can now stack, spawning additional wells for each additional copy of the mod you have equipped. So now our Reaping Wellmaker is going to make us 2 Elemental Wells, which is helpful because now we're going to get more out of utility as well as just getting more out of Elemental Wells as a whole, because of course they give us ability energy to all of our abilities because we're matching the subclass to our Elemental Well pickup. So this is going to allow us to just feed back into more abilities. And finally, for our class item, I ran 2 preparations, which gives us class ability energy when we use our class ability, and elemental armaments. Combatant weapon final blows with a damage type that matches your subclass element have an escalating chance to spawn an elemental well. And of course, with Bountiful Wells, we have a chance to get 2. In the future, for my class item, I'm either going to run Monochromatic Maestro, which gives you a 10% boost when you are magic element subclass to weapons, or of course Weaken Clear, so we can get the Weaken debuff and just be able to melt through champions and bosses. Now, with that all being said, that is the end of the video. I have really enjoyed using this build over the past few days, and it is something I was really excited for when they announced the change to Gryfalcons in a previous TWAB, to the point of, like, as soon as the season started, I found my Gryfalcons, I put it on, I got this build set up, and I waited. I used it, but I was like, man, this just doesn't feel good. I need to have this rework. And I was right. This feels so good to use now in PvE, and I love it. It is definitely up there in my personal top 5 builds ever, so keep that in mind when you use it, and when you think about using it, it is just so good. And with that, I hope you will like, comment, and subscribe. Keep coming back for more. Check those links down in the description for our sponsor and our Discord. And of course, I hope everybody has a good week.